Before I begin, I feel as though I should issue a warning to all those brave enough to listen. The words I speak are painfully true, and once you are enlightened with this knowledge, you will never be able to forget it. This tale is one that has haunted the hills of Middle Tennessee since 1916. If you are bold enough to stay and hear it, know that neither your knowledge nor protective denials will save you from the sorrowful wrath of the wronged Adahi. Long before the white men had ever stepped foot in North America, a powerful Cherokee tribe ruled these hills. Their numbers were great, and the gods looked favorably upon them. It was a time of bountiful harvest, and the earth provided everything the expanding tribe needed. Children laughed and learned, and warriors died honorably, so the spirit world was also at peace. Everything changed when the white men came. When the Cherokee scouts first spotted the wagons, it was a rainy evening in April of 1780. The elders were concerned, for they had heard stories of burning cities and piercing screams. The chief decided that no one should approach the white devils until he had spoken with the gods. This, however, could take many months, which frustrated one young warrior. His name was Adahi, and he was dangerously curious. Many weeks passed, and Adahi attempted to distract himself by hunting an elusive buck that had been recently haunting his dreams. Cherokee legends claim that bucks symbolize a coming significant change to the dreamer's life, which put the already restless Adahi even more on edge. One afternoon, he discovered a fresh trail and followed it for many hours. By nightfall, he had come to the great river. While stopped along the shore to drink, Adahi heard a faint, melodic tune. Creeping through the underbrush softly, he saw a beautiful young woman in a clearing close by him. Her hair was silky, and the lashes around her gentle eyes were thick and mesmerizing. The paleness of her skin was foreign and fascinating. Adahi could not move, he could not think. All he could do was sit and stare at this ethereal being. The woman eventually left the clearing, and, after several minutes, a buck appeared to Adahi. This encounter could not be a coincidence, and Adahi knew that he must see the white woman again. Winter changed to spring, and Adahi's trips to the great river became more and more frequent. The elders challenged his devotion to his duties, but he did not care. All his thoughts belonged to the white woman with a soft smile and sweet voice. Eventually, his careless enthrallment led to his exposure. Adahi, made clumsy by his devotion, fell through the bush concealing him. The girl did not run or scream, though, as he always imagined she would. Adahi could see by the amusement in her eyes that she had been aware of his presence for a long time. His shock deepened further when she uttered a few broken Cherokee phrases. In time, he came to understand her, and she him. Neither of them was unaware of the tensions between their people. Prolonged hunting trips and a need for fresh air became recurring excuses that their families continually complied to. These tentative strangers turned into playful friends. By the next winter, they changed once more into lovers. Adahi and his Mary were overwhelmed with bliss. The weeks apart were painful, but the reunions made their absences bearable. They told no one of their dangerous relationship for fear of a more permanent separation. But their secret could not be kept forever. In early spring, Mary became pregnant. Her mother noticed the signs and told her husband, John Donaldson, immediately. After a confrontation and many threats, Mary would still not reveal the identity of her baby's father. John began to watch her more closely. He and his sons followed her to the riverside, where she completed her chores each day for many weeks. Mary was not aware of their presence, so when Adahi finally returned to her, she welcomed him affectionately. They watched the two embrace, and John was filled with great anger. He stepped out of the woods with his knife raised. Cries and pleadings filled the clearing, but the father's rage could only be sated with blood. Adahi's remains were found by his people many weeks later. This is when the attacks on Fort Nashboro began. Mary's grief affected her so greatly that it resulted in the death of her child, which was the only reminder of Adahi she had left. Her once vibrant spirit was permanently crippled. Her journals documenting her relationship were found after her death, and only then did the Donaldson family understand Mary's never-ending sadness. As for Adahi, his body was buried with his ancestors in a large mound with the tribe's hope that his soul would find rest. Unfortunately, Adahi's peace was not to be. In 1916, archaeologist William E. Meyer excavated the mound where a Cherokee tribe's deceased had been buried decades earlier. Among the bones recovered was Adahi's body. The Cherokee believed that if a soul has not found rest and its bones are disturbed, that it will return to the earth from the spirit realm. It will haunt this world until the cause of its distress has been resolved. Adahi awoke and immediately began to search for Mary. 2 weeks after the grave was excavated, a teenage girl went missing. Her body was found floating in the Cumberland River many months later, with eyes wide open and a scream caught in her breathless lungs. A family who had been camping nearby the river claimed to have heard shrieks and moans the night before, but dismissed them as the wind and an overactive imagination. 4 months after that, a single mother and her young son's dismembered bodies were found scattered throughout the Gallatin woods. The officers who found the corpses were alerted of the problem by hikers, who stated that sobbing had echoed throughout the woods the night before. This pattern has continued for almost a century. Adahi impulsively believes that he has found his lost love, and, when he realizes that the terrified people are not his Mary or his child, he kills them out of frustration. His spirit is confused by this modern world and its strange ways. He cannot see past his sadness, which angers him and makes him violent. Adahi's rage is uncontrollable, and his grief is endless. Adahi cannot find rest until he is reunited with his Mary. He feels her presence in these familiar hills and is inexhaustible. No one can find him, and no one knows what he does to his victims in the weeks after they are taken and before they are killed. No body is found in the same condition. There are only 2 common traits: the wide, blind eyes and shrieking mouth. What his victims see or experience is unknown. There are assumptions, of course, about broken sobs and pointless pleading, but the truth is unclear. All anyone knows for sure is that no one is safe in Adahi's sorrowful woods.